Hi everyone, it's Lavender Sky Panther. Welcome to show number 182 called Night Sky Burst. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening in Miami, mostly during January and February. I'm finally catching up on my backlog of a ton of sky photos, finally getting them all together to put them in a show. I'm very happy about that. And I also want to say happy spring. It's Spring Equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. And obviously then fall. Happy fall to everybody in the Southern Hemisphere watching. And I've dated this show. It's March 21st, and I'm recording it on the 21st. However, the time's already skipping into the 22nd, as I am recording this insanely late at night or early in the wee hours in the morning, however you want to look at it. But anyway, let's move along in the show. I am including a few alternate cover slides like I used to do this time around. And as you can see, I was just toying with which one to go with. I'm going to show you three, so just for fun, pick which one you like the best. And we're going to get into a lot of detail and analyze these things as we get into the show. Okay, so those are the three, all very fascinating. What's going on in the skies? Oh, you know what? On this one, I'm just realizing, if you follow my cursor, I didn't label, put a little label, the letter number combination here over this. This is clearly a cloak and craft right in here, because you see a solid white arc, and it looks like it has cloaking material going around it. But we're going to get into all of this coming up in the show. All right, so just in honor and celebration of spring and nature, I'm including a beautiful starfruit in bloom. So these are the blossoms. If you know what starfruit is, great. If you don't, here it is on the left. I'm going to show a few different images of it. I'm actually growing some in a tree in my very own earth, my property. So it's very exciting once these first bloom, and just a very small twig of a tree, very, fresh young plant just yields a ton of these things. And I invite you to go look up all the health properties of starfruit. It's also called Carambola in Spanish. And you'll be amazed, with the vitamin C content, everything. It's amazing. So here's some of the little blossoms, and here it is, when it's a little bit greener on the right, it's not quite ready to eat, but when it gets more yellow, then that's, the ripe and ready version. And then when you cut it, of course, it looks like a star, and people either eat it just like that off the tree, or put it in salads, or, there's a ton of ways you can utilize this. All right, so anyway, if you're not familiar, that's the starfruit. All right, now I'm just going to roll right into all of this, whether you're new or returning to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know what the running time on this is going to be. I'm guessing it might be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So if you can hang in there and watch the whole thing, great. And if not, you can only catch bits and pieces, that's fine too. I just appreciate you having a look here and see what you see in some of these photos. I'm going to run through what I see, but clearly you might see even more into things. As I note on all the shows, I am narrating this and going through the show and looking at the slides on a laptop screen, so it's a slightly bigger format. If I ran this show looking at it just like on a smaller handheld device, a smaller screen, smaller scale, more like a thumbnail, I would see totally different things. So there's so much going on typically in any given photo. The scale matters. The size does matter in this case, because if I'm looking really at a small screen, I'm going to see certain things jump out that I won't on the larger screen, and vice versa. So if I'm pointing at something and you're like, oh my gosh, why isn't she talking about this thing over here? It's like incredible. It's just, that's a function of how it's working. So it's kind of like a fun little treasure hunt. Maybe you find some real nice little gems in there that I'm missing. And obviously, by all means, call them out and put them in the comment section below if you see something really cool that I missed. It wasn't intentional on my part to miss it. All right, so anyway, we're going to jump into this now. If you are new, I invite you just to look at some of my earlier shows to see what I'm doing here, why I'm doing it. For anyone returning, bear with me. I'm just going to say it for the benefit of anybody just joining in. I'm just going to put original photo on the photos, and that goes without saying, it's original. And there'll be other photos on the right-hand side. Typically, we'll see it says enhanced photo. And that means I've just taken the photo and I've just upped or lowered levels of brightness, contrast, color, saturation, maybe sharpness, maybe on rare occasion warmth, and that's it. And then I'll throw in the letters just to help show key elements of what I'm highlighting and flagging in each photo that seems of interest, and just some of the main highlights, if you will. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back, and if I step away, typically I'm just kind of clearing my voice when I need to. All right, so we're looking south in Miami, and it's, towards 6 p.m. in the evening. And what I noticed here is, to the right would be the west, would be where sunset is supposed to be happening. And yet we're looking true south, and I see this weird, ray, I'll just call it right now, like a beam going this way, and back up this way. And it seems to have particulate, so either plasma is going to be my go-to word for the cloaking material that we're going to see on Cloak and Craft. But this looks like it also could be some type of sprayed trail. Now, when we talk about trails, obviously everybody's heard the phrase, I'm going to say chemical-filled trails. It's a CHEM trail, a chemical-filled trail, or which would have, yes, toxic materials in it. Supposedly, reportedly, I have no way to prove it. I have not tested it out in the field myself with a lab kit. But technically, supposedly, those carry barium, strontium, aluminum, and other, nasty things to humans' health. But I have a theory lately developed too that some of these also could be simply what I call camouflage trails, where they help hide and veil different objects in the sky. Let's just say that maybe some entities don't want to be seen. And perhaps it is just truly a smoke and mirrors type trail where it does a great job to camouflage and hide stuff, maybe doesn't have toxins in it. I'm just open to that idea that I don't think we're just dealing with one or the other. I think we're dealing with all of the above. Anyway, all that to say, look at, some of my earlier shows if you're new, and if you're returning, you know the drill by now, and I'm equally grateful for everyone to be here. Thanks again. All right, so here we go. We're looking to the south, and so with enhancement, here are those, 3 rays or beams, I was looking at. So this is blown out like a little bit of an extreme enhancement. Sometimes I really blow things out to exaggerate them even more. But what I find very interesting in this scene is, like I said, remember, to the right is where sunset is supposed to be. And again, in the days of yore, we had a beautiful golden, lightly pulsing sun that felt like warm and healing, even if you got a sunburn. Nowadays, it feels like a microwave burn on the skin. It's very painful. It burns in a different way. It's bright white and glaring. It's hard to even look at it. And, I am in South Florida. I'm located in Miami. And so I have spent a majority of my life here, and I'm keenly in tune with the sun. I used to lay out in it when I was a youngster, and I just really noticed the difference. And, so that's what I'm saying is going on with the sun, is that we have tech that's been placed in front of our natural sun, and I talk about that in other shows and other sky and earth sky watching and earth watching channels cover it too. I'm not going to go over the details of it now, but there are U.S. patents pulled for solar simulators. That technology exists, and that technology creates this white glare out. So to the right, where there should be a nice warm sunset, we've got this intense white, and it's so obvious here. So anyway, when we look to the south, then we've got this other signature happening. So what exactly is going on with these beams? It's very interesting. So there's even more going on than just maybe some kind of trail, whether it's cam or camouflage. I'm not sure what's in here, but I suspect there are things cloaking within here that carry their own energy source or energy generation. Anyway, that's just something I'm throwing out there. Some of these things I'm going to have more questions than answers on some of these images. And the fun part is, again, I lay out what I see, but I also love to hear if anyone wants to chime in of what you're looking at. Feel free to put it in the comment section below, whether it's fun and fantastical or outlandish, I don't care. Or based in technical and science, whatever you want, or a hybrid of it. And over here, I see something with a little bit of structure into it, so it looks a little more of intelligent design than just haphazard stuff, stray stuff. So I suspect there might be a cloaking object sitting in there too. No matter what, you can see how dense the particulate is in the atmosphere for this kind of consistency to be happening over here with this glare out, and even up in here. All right, I'm going to move on now. Okay, this is looking north, and again, toward, well, not quite yet sunset. But what caught my attention immediately was that letter A, this, this dart-like shape, arrow, arrowhead type shape. And then I could tell something wispy was happening over here. And now I was in a very powerful way, let's just say, divine way, instructed to start looking up back in 2018, in the summer of 2018, in July actually. And I did. And I tell the story, I think in probably the very first show. Not in so much detail, though. There's a reason why I have to hold back on that. I'll come out with all of it, but at the right time. But just know that, in a very powerful kind of mystical way, I was told to just 2 words, look up. And at the time, I'm like, well, what the heck is that supposed to mean? Because at that time, I wasn't noticing really anything in the sky at all. And then about 6 months later, I finally found out what that meant. And that was my first sighting of something very clear, perfect triangle in the sky. Not an object, but an imprint, like a void-looking thing. And that's in my very first show. I invite you to go take a look at it if you're interested. Anyway, that was my aha moment of, wow, there's a whole bigger world happening in our skies, more than we realize, more than meets just the naked eye. And even though I kind of have a love-hate relationship with technology at times, I think everybody can understand that with invasive AI and other things, but and being monitored and surveilled, in general, the whole population these days, it seems. But it can be beneficial, I have to admit that and give it that credit. It does. The digital cameras obviously can see a wider range of visible light spectrum, whatever you want to call it, than just our naked eye. And so that's how I'm able to really pull out details of seeing cloak and craft, is through this technology of the digital camera phone. All right. I do want to say, too, I encourage everybody, if you're not already, do look at all the other Earth and Sky watching channels out there. And also, if you're interested in starting your own channel on YouTube, do it. You just need a camera phone, to get going. You don't even need a laptop or setup to edit any photos. A great way to get started is just to do some YouTube shorts. You can do it all on the phone and launch it, And then that way you can share what's going on wherever you live. As I've said on other shows, no matter where you go in the entire world right now, you go outside, stand there, and look up, and you're going to see a cloak and craft, guaranteed. So anyway, that's just my little side trip, scenic route right there for now. Let me get back into the show. So okay. So here's an example. I'm looking at this with the naked eye. I can just sense it too. I can feel it. There's something more there. And it's just strange. Why is this one thing perfectly in a V, pointing, hanging out by itself, pretty much. So here we go with enhancement. And after, you start looking, you'll already know if you're doing this already. But if you're new to it, looking up, the more you start to look at even just these little wispy things, you get great at identifying, oh, wait, there's more going on. What's your identifier? Usually pure symmetrical geometry. So in this case, with a little bit of enhancement on this photo, we start to see what I call a sky imprint, which is either a weird way that we don't quite grasp that an object is sitting there cloaking, but it just appears to be like an imprint or a void, or who knows? I mean, is that some kind of little portal or stargate or something else? Who knows? I don't know for sure, but I suspect it's an object cloaking in a way we can't quite grasp, or we just haven't been told. So anyway, already with 8.1, I start to see the telltale signs of the symmetrical geometry. So this little cutout, if you will, you can see a rigid line going here, a rigid line going there to a point. Then you kind of see something coming down at the sides. So that tells me where we have a perfect pentagon or octagon or hexagon or any number of shapes, triangle, that aren't natural to a natural cloud system that I have known living decades on this planet, then I know that we're dealing with some kind of tech in the sky. Who's putting that tech there? Who's in it or driving it? I'm going to say it's ET, or it could be, so extraterrestrial technology, and possibly beings in there, or it's piloted remote. I don't know for sure. I think it's again a case of all of the above, not just one thing or the other. It also could be IT, meaning interterrestrial. We've got USOs, UFOs. USOs are unidentified submersible objects coming up out of the Pacific, coming up out of all the oceans, the Atlantic. They're sighted. It's not a secret anymore. Even if the official narrative has come out and said it, even prior to 2017, around there, excuse me, and just nobody's kind of paying attention or believing it. So it really shouldn't be a mystery at this point. And now people like myself and others, we're catching it, and we're able to even break it down and give you detail like I'm going to do. So I think it's, case closed, no waiting for disclosure. We've got it. The people know it. And go people. All right. We're bringing the knowledge. No waiting for anybody anymore, anybody else. So anyway, all that to say, let's see exactly what's going on. I'm going to zoom in on each of these elements. So here I'm looking at that even more, and you can see, a straight line going up to a point. If you follow my cursor, a straight line over here. I'm not sure what's happening in front or what's coming off of these sides. See if you see anything deeper. I can't quite get to it. But here at first, I know I was talking about a pentagonal shape, but the way some of this is, it's kind of hard to tell for sure. So there's plasma, which again, that's my go-to. I'm going to call cloaking material. It's just the word I'm going to use to mean something heavier and denser than water vapor that can cloak really well and cling to objects and hide them. So with the cloaking material, which I'm assuming this is in front of it, I can't quite get the true shape. So at first I thought, maybe it's something like this. It was looking a little curved. But then the more I looked at it, I'm like, no, I see, if you follow my cursor, a straight line coming here and banking back the other way at almost a near right angle. So anyway, the more I look at it, I see that this is the shape. So anyway, I do believe it's a pentagon. And I believe there's a different object cloaking here, that there's a vapor trail that kind of is flying up here into the middle of the scene. Hard to prove it, but you got to admit this is weird, and you look at the color signatures. Also, I want to point out that with natural cloud systems, and I do it on all my shows, so bear with me if you've been following me for a bit, and again, thanks. In a natural cloud system, in my low atmosphere here, in the lower atmosphere, we would just mostly have cumulus clouds, maybe some other stratus type clouds, or cirrus, but mostly things would just kind of blow across in a predictable direction, consistent with whichever way the wind was blowing. Now, if that's the case, there's no way I can have one element, shooting off to the left and then another one angling off to the right. That would be opposing forces and doesn't work with physics and the nature of like how weather is supposed to move. So anyway, I'll just leave it out of that. Now, while I'm going over this, though, it's just coming to mind that actually this, if we go back to that, this could be a portal, and we'll go back to that it's a pentagonal shape, and there's a vapor trail suggesting the energy of this thing is moving toward the center. You know what? Maybe this is some kind of portal, and this little craft is going, okay, time to check out, and they zoom off into it. So anyway, see what you think. All right, this is now, I'll go back a couple. The next thing we're going to look at is this element over here, B and C, and I believe that's the moon way off in the distance, I believe. If not, it's a lens flare, but I'm pretty sure that is the moon, looking very weird. Anyway, here we go. So now in this case, this I already start to see a line going this way with a sharp angle banking back up this way. So that tells me it's a rigid structure. It's not a natural cloud formation. It even comes up to a point with another straight edged line coming down. Can I tell you exactly what's going on here? No. This weird little element here, I often talk about, we might have larger cloaking craft, medium size or small, but then we have these weird little capsule things. Now, is that single-seater kind of craft? Possibly, like you would just go into a car or, that type of thing. Or is this some type of instrumentation or like a probe or something sent out to get readings on the atmosphere or, go around like, I guess, like a drone, a remote data gathering device. Let me just say, maybe it's something like that comes and goes from the main craft. Not sure. See what you think. Okay, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit because there are quite a few slides in this show. I kind of spent more time on some things than I normally would like to. But again, thanks for hanging in here with me and going through all of this. So here we're looking to the northeast in the morning. Now, of course, what caught my attention immediately are two parallel lines pretty far spread apart. That does not happen in natural cloud systems, nor does if somebody wants to make the case that, that could be condensation trails. Well, no, because no planes fly and make them parallel so low in altitude, and what would the point be, right? So no, these are not contrails. They are either camouflage trails or chemtrails. Now we have a lot of movement in addition to these pure straight lines, which again just can't happen naturally, and if a craft is creating them, would never create them this close together in parallel. Also kind of angling down toward the earth. It's just all too low. None of it makes sense. So, but in the midst of all of that, we have these weird, kind of like triangular shaped things moving upward, and weird puff clouds in the middle. So this is easier to see with enhancement. What the heck is going on here? So we've got the lines are easy to see. We've got, look, kind of like a roundish object. Looks kind of organic, maybe nut or seed-like, or it's a face. A lot of people are starting to see what they're calling sky people or organics in the sky, where it's not pareidolia, where you just kind of see something and your mind wants to go ahead and make it a face. Some of these things I'm seeing are too accurate, too precise just to be happenstance. And I think there really is something to sky people effect, although I don't know exactly how it's pulled off and who those people would be, but it's starting to add up a little bit, at least for me, in the big grand scheme of puzzle of what is going on in our skies these days. But anyway, it's a weird little figure. You could almost look at it as like, if you follow my cursor, that's an eye and another eye, and that's like a scrunched brow or forehead, and that's like one big face with maybe weird little legs. That's what I'm seeing. But if it's not that, I can't tell you what the heck that thing is. And then look at this, right over it or behind it, or if this is interdimensionally moving, we have these parallel lines coming through, and they're grabbing this spherical cloaked shape here. I mean, this whole scene is so strange, and you would never have straight lines coming into another straight line here. So all of this is very, let's just say, curious and mysterious. See what you see at B.1. I also see a hole here, so I'm beginning to think that this is part of a sphere that we're seeing, a big circle, and that looks like holes in it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's not one of these planets that people are capturing on FAA cameras all over the world, where we're starting to see other planetary bodies entering the Earth's atmosphere, as prophesized in the Hopi Prophecy and others. Do look at my description box below of what these bodies could be. There are a lot of great channels capturing these, especially if you look at some of the earlier work of a channel called The Final Days. It used to be called Universal News Media. She narrates and really explains everything to a T. And other people, I'm sure you're already familiar with, like Gina Maria Colvin Hill. She's been capturing them and highlighting them as well. So do look into that. If it's a new concept to you, you'll be fascinated with the clear detail of these planetary bodies that are starting to show up. Not starting to, they have been for a long time for the eyes that were there to see it. But now more and more people are waking up to what's going on. There's more to all of this, and you'll be able to see it too. All right, excuse me, now we're looking southeast in the morning. And just what caught me here was the shape of this so-called sun. This is where I'm going to say it's a solar simulator or sun tech that's sitting in front of our, other would-be normal golden sun beyond. And it glares up so bright, and this expands really, really far in all directions 1 minute and then shrinks back down the next. It doesn't behave like our natural sun. Anyway, my point here is, it's a weird shape. Our regular, original natural sun would not ever look like that. And here you get a real good view of it. Also, I want you to, not want you to, but I invite you to take a look at the color signatures with me. Natural sun wouldn't quite look like this either. And what the heck is going on in 8.1? This is telling me there's an object sitting here. Otherwise, it would look all blue like everything around it. Also, D.1, look at this massive craft. I'm going to say it's cloaking. Because look at this straight, smooth line of this thing. And again, looking at the color signatures, it shows me there's an object. So in this case, the reddish color is the plasma material kind of coming over what the yellow is signifying, a pure object. So have fun looking at that. I'm sure you're going to see a lot more. Like I always say, the more you look at any of one of these photos, the more you're going to find. And hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Now this is looking northeast toward the evening. The sun is already down, and my camera has a couple of settings. One says night vision, so that's what this setting is on, so it helps pull out things a little bit more. Already I see a triangular form, a darker void imprint right up here. These little things are stars. Down here, I think that's a plane, the headlights coming at us. But anyway, I looked up and saw this. So what the heck? No plane would have any reason to leave a condensation trail or contrail, so we can rule that out right away. So why the heck do we have a chemical filled trail or camouflage trail coming at such a sharp angle down toward the horizon? And this is supposedly the moon right here. So we can already see there's a ton of particulate. So somebody or some bodies or some entities without bodies are working overtime here in the night to make this heavy veil of particulate. Why? Are they trying to obscure our view from seeing any other planetary bodies, from seeing any craft moving around? Or are they creating also, I haven't really brought this up on other shows, are they creating a dense net, if you will, a dense screen, so that if there were any craft coming through that are like considered enemy to them, they'd be able to spot it better on their technology if there's a dense field of particulate. I'm just throwing it out there because that could also be the cause. Anyway, let's have a look with enhancement. And wow, I'm going to go back a second. Look at between B and C. Look at this magenta, round object, I'll just say. And over here, you can't really detect it. So that's why I say these camera phones, oh my gosh, they're great at reaching broader, range of light and photosensitivity, color sensitivity, all of it. So to me, there is something, kind of cloaking back in here. Now, why, if we go back, look at this. This particulate also creates an amplifier effect for the light. So the moon wasn't all that bright, to be honest. The camera is also not capturing it quite correct. But look at this stuff, creates like, like putting a white sheet behind it creates a lot of extra reflectivity. So there we go. What exactly is going on here? I don't know, but I know I don't like it because it's messing up with our normal atmosphere. And look see here, we have two concentric lines, these lighter parts. I suspect these are two cloaking craft, one over the other. And that this camouflage is an attempt to hide that. Look how massive these things are. And just to let you know, whenever I'm catching these things and it's dawning on me that, oh my gosh, we're dealing with some pretty big massive craft or potentially planetary bodies and whatnot, there's no fear whatsoever associated with any of this. If I got a bad vibe or a bad feeling, I'd let you know. And I think I've said on other shows, I've only had maybe less than a handful of instances where I did have a very bad vibe, and I was like, okay, I'm getting inside. I'm not doing this. But that's over, 4 years' time. That's not much at all. So no worries on that. Also, the theory of, people talk about, well, if it's a huge planetary body coming into our atmosphere in the Earth's neighborhood here, oh my gosh, it will wreak havoc, and the magnetic of it, the, magnetism of the planet would interfere with ours and start doing things. I don't buy that. I think there's a lot more to the explanation behind gravity and things like planetary bodies. So I think we can have a bunch just, very near offshore, so to speak, that might not even do anything. So that's just my personal opinion right now. Nobody on this planet can prove it out. And so we'll just kind of have to watch and see what's going on. And anyway, let's keep going. So now I'm in a parking lot near a building supply store looking northeast toward the evening. And I just noticed this. It was just odd the way this was situated. Again, very low in the sky, all on its own. And something kind of coming to a point. It actually is like a Y shape. And to me, this looked like a ghosting, like the outer tracings of one overall cloaking craft. And so with enhancement, I can't get at too much more, but just when you look at the lines, like if this were like a fighter jet and that's like the needle at the front of it, old-fashioned one, you come to the back, this would be moving toward the back. It does look like we have symmetrical parts and that this would kind of be the back end of it. The more you look, especially on a bigger screen like a laptop screen and maybe also on the thumbnail version, this already starts to make a perfect, U shape, suggesting this is all part of one thing. So that's what I think is going on, that this is an overall cloaking craft. But we're going to zoom in on B and C. I couldn't get at too much more, but actually this is a really pretty wild effect that I have not had on any other analysis that I've been doing for over 4 years. And it's like a confetti effect. It's actually really pretty, of all these different wild colors all within these pieces. So I think this thing has a really wild energy source, or a really cool way of cloaking. But I haven't seen all these little confetti dot type different colors, playing out like they are on this thing. So anyway, see what you see. All right, now this is funny and very unusual. This is an anomaly in the fact that there's nothing there except blue sky, finally. This was on January 7th. And I say blue skies finally, but in reality, this blue is not as deep and rich as we used to have when I was growing up. So right away I can see all down in here, there's a lot of particulate kind of muting out what our true blue skies would be. But hey, for now, as long as we don't see all these god-awful camouflage trails or chemical fill trails, or both all over the place, I'm happy. All right, now we're going into still the 7th, and now this is in the evening, and I'm just going to show this little pairing. Actually, these are the originals, and then we're going to go to that is going to be the enhancements. So what was interesting is I've shown this before. We have, this is now in front of the moon. Now I've shown this effect in front of the sun, but now we're kind of having it in front of the moon, where how can this dot, okay, right here, be the moon when we have a different light source happening beyond shining, okay? So this tells me this is artificial tech or some artificial body in front of what's supposed to be the moon. Now, on top of things, look at, if you follow my cursor down here in the lower left on the right-hand side, straight edge, forming a perfect triangular form. That's not going to happen in a natural cloud. So there's an object sitting here, or an opening. There's another tracing of a perfect rhombus, perfect rigid shape here. There are a lot of weird little nooks and crannies, little things going on. B.1. This is another shape that goes up to a point. So this again looks like we're seeing the top half of a perfect pentagonal shape. There's a triangular shape up here. There's a lot going on. And then to point at the obvious in the center of the room, so to speak, look at this thing. What's this thing sitting right in front? So one moment this is going in front of what's supposed to be the moon, even though there's a light source going on behind it. So again, that's a light physics impossibility if we just have the one light source. But anyway, then it moves off, from it. So look at this thing. It's got a straight line. Actually, it doesn't matter which one we look at. We'll look at on the left-hand side. It looks like it comes to a point. Again, that point is symmetrical. And it looks like a little plane of some type with like the tail happening back here. It's got straight lines. So to me, this is a craft, and cloaking craft, and I don't know what it's doing there. Maybe it just pumps out all this kind of quote-unquote cloud material. Or it's just hanging out because it can, and nobody's out looking up, especially not at night. Now down here too, I see bits and pieces poking out, like there's a perfect little kind of point, like if you had a shield, the center of it, a circular shield, it's pointing out there. And then we have like things with rigid structure here happening too. So, and then we look on the right hand side, we even see a stick, a very linear element, or we're seeing the just parts of, I think actually that's probably a triangular shaped craft, and the way the plasma's coming over it, something's going on, but there shouldn't anyway be like a very straight line happening there. So there's definitely technology happening right here as well. Engineered craft, if you will. Look at, I see over here too, if you follow my cursor, perfect pipes parallel to each other. The end of a pipe, the end of a pipe. And then we look up over here. Again, I see a pipe like a cylindrical element. Now I did catch this on one of my shorts, my YouTube shorts, recently, where there's a triangular imprint, and then you see clearly it's a pipe with stuff coming out of it. So these little pipes, they're part of cloaking craft, and I think their job is to either, maybe their sole job is to pump out this stuff to hide things, or they need it to cloak themselves, and I think that's what's happening too. Again, not an either or situation, but all of the above. Here we're going to just, again, blow it out a little bit more so you can see that 8.2, that is a solid object. So once we get past the smoke and mirrors, that's the essence of the object sitting there, okay? Again, here's that little stick-like, perfect stick element there, and then we start to see the negative of that pentagonal shape. So On a lot of this, I could go on and on forever. Like here's a triangular shape here as well. So we know there's smart tech up there. Oh, and then here we have, a triangular form sitting down here. Anyway, I'm going to keep moving along. I could really go on and on for this forever. Really look, and you'll just see little bits and pieces of technology poking out. Have fun with it. Okay, I'm going to zoom in one more time. Let's see, what am I doing? B4. Okay, so up here, okay, and what I was saying was like a cutout of a pentagonal shape. And again, look at these little pieces bulging out. So when I go to the B4, I was just trying to get at what is going on with this pentagonal shape, because it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you follow my cursor right in there. But look we've got 2 parallel sticks. And so that tells me it's absolutely technology sitting here. As I always say, I wish we could blow away the smoke and mirrors, blow away all the smoke so we could actually see what that is. I do want to see it. But anyway, that's what we're dealing with behind the scenes. All right, so now we're looking northeast, and this is a little bit of a distorted panorama. So we're looking east in the morning, 9 in the morning, and so to the left is north, and to the right-ish, left is north. We're looking east, and it kind of warps. We're looking southeast, pardon me. Also, you're going to notice some of my little title blocks, I don't update everything perfectly consistently, so that's an old remnant of copy and paste, so it shouldn't say northeast. We're actually looking generally east and south, but spanning from north to south. Anyway, my point being here, look at the sky. The bottom picture is the original, the top is the enhanced version. Look at this stuff. This is just crazy. We never see skies like this. Look at the fine detail, of all of this stuff. And then when we look at the enhanced version above, we see a burst of that white. So that's that artificial sun, the solar simulator, sun simulator, however you want to call it. Some people nickname it Sun Sim. And then we look to the right, and there's also a little bit of a burst here as well, kind of in an arc. So what's going on? I can understand here to the east, you got a burst of the so-called sun, but then we shouldn't have one all the way over here as well. So something's up. I also see some of these like partial sky imprints with rigid geometry are happening here with straight lines. But I'm going to leave this one as another thing for all of you to take a look at if you want on your own time. We're going to move ahead now. All right, so here's just looking at that texture of just really weird stuff that it really is not typical cloud. Now what's interesting is, I'm looking at all of this, I kind of see a bigger sky imprint of a triangular form if you follow my cursor. But look at the right. I really, again, kind of push the enhancement to the extreme just to see what might show up, and look what we've got. So here I have A, B, and C. This is either one, I guess it's a couple of craft. We have a sharp, if you follow my cursor, straight edge, and a point of a triangular form. And then this is kind of doing its own thing, going off to a point as well. So this could be 3 different craft. It could be one bigger craft, hard to say. But based on the color signatures and, nothing popping up, that tells me we're dealing with objects down here, and that would be over here on the left. All right, have a look at this one and tell me what you see. This is looking to the northeast in the morning. And just whenever I see perfectly parallel lines straight, in the sky, that's not natural cloud, no way. And especially when it's the only thing sitting there, just kind of parked there. So we look to the right. Already I see an object absolutely happening here at B. Why? Because this is going in one direction, and then this is coming across perpendicular, splayed across perpendicular to it. So that's not a natural cloud. Those are machine parts of some kind of craft. And then we look at 8.1. These look like the front to me of a craft, where these would be the front legs. Or maybe they're trailing behind, but this would be like a control module where you would be, sitting there controlling this thing. That's what I see. And I don't know if this is another little outrigger to this overall craft, or this is the beginning of another one over here at C.1. Something weird is happening down here too, very circular in shape. So we'll look at it a little bit more, zoom in. Here's that weird circular shape to the left, lower left at C.2. This is definitely some type of rigid object. It's symmetrical and has, sharp curves on it, crisp curves. So anyway, here we go. This is what I'm calling like little command, or what I'm missing the words right now, like little cockpit or something where you would probably sit and control this craft. And again, you're either looking to the front and these are the front legs of it, or this is the thing, you're looking this way and these are trailing behind. I tend to think that this is the front of the craft off to the right. There's a little object up over here. And again, we get a better look at, this. It's still kind of choppy and hard to see exactly, but there's rigid enough pieces in here, rigid enough pieces to say, yes, that's absolutely a craft. There also looks like a perfect circle over here, like a divot or a dish or something. Anyway, like a radar dish, but we're going to keep moving along now. Okay, this one's real exciting. This is looking to the west. I was driving around in Miami, and occasionally you'll see I'll put a masking block. I did put it on the street numbers, and I'll put it on things like license plates or house numbers, just not to give away anybody's privacy, and or promote different things that I might not want to promote. So anyway, in this case, I'm looking to the west in the morning, and I see this. Now, again, my eyes are attuned to looking for cloaking craft, looking for machine parts, looking for a lot of anomalies in the sky for over 4 years now. So right away, I'm like, okay, wow, we've got rigid structure in here. It's very organized, very intelligent, and this thing is forming a pointed, shallow, pointed ellipse, perfectly so. How do I know? Bam, here we go. That's what I could see without doing this enhancement. I can detect it on a very subconscious level. And then it's always fun to just run the enhancements on these photos, because we're looking at that. Yeah, we know something's going on, and then bam, you really see it. So these are the aha moments that I love, and that's why I'm doing this on my own time to share with everybody. And that's why I invite you to do it as well if you're not already, even if you start with playing around with shorts and posting stuff that you're seeing, because my gosh, if all of us would start posting, more and more, we could really compare notes, across the world. And people are doing it already, but if even more of us are doing it, it just would be extraordinary. So, and there's room for everybody to be posting. Anyway, and if you are a Skywatcher that has joined in and are watching this, thanks for being here again. And feel free, if you have good-spirited content, good intent behind your content especially, feel free to give a shout out. I'm totally for people, showing where they're from, what channel, what they're about. And let's start looking at everybody's work and be very open and embracing in this community. All right, so anyway, let's keep going. Oh, I'm going to go back a second. There are little elements here and there. I'm not going to nitpick and call them out exactly, but like I could already see the end of a tube here, and there's other stuff going on. So have fun looking around, and also, zooming in and really looking into some of these photos. All right, now this is looking at 2:20 in the afternoon, looking west, and this little thing was just all by itself. And what got really interesting is, see this black dot? I noticed in another frame there were a couple, and they didn't appear to be birds. And the way they were frame to frame, they weren't behaving like birds. So once again, some of these things that are cloaking craft do send out little capsules, little maybe instruments, little probes, maybe for, again, like I said, maybe atmospheric testing, who knows? Maybe surveillance, I don't know. But again, I don't get any bad vibes from any of this. Now, so this one just caught my attention because I started to see two little symmetrical objects parallel to each other that seem to have like little round ends to them. And these look like, two parallel things off the back. So at 8.1, I really, contrasted it heavy this time just to get at the overall shape. It's kind of funny. It almost looks like a cartoon frog or crab with, those being like the eyes. And then it looks like a frog leaping with those as the legs. But it looks like there's a little more tech involved, because we've got, if you look at the void, it's a straight line, coming across. So it's pretty precise, like a machine part. So again, I'm going to call this a cloaking craft. And we zoom in on it. See, there's these little, looks like eyeballs on top of little stalks if it were a crab. And what I've pointed out in other shows as well is that some of these things have a very organic feel. So they have machine parts popping out, but yet they look like they're emulating something organic. And a great example is in the movie, I think it was from 2019, the newer movie Atlantis. I think that's what it was called, just Atlantis. No, sorry, Aquaman. I don't know why I missed that. Aquaman. But in Aquaman, a lot of the craft that they have moving around in there obviously was rigid tech, but it was made to look like fish or whales or other things. So anyway, that's the impression I get here. So it's a little too murky, kind of in the water theme, to pull anything out exactly. But other than, these two things definitely look engineered. No cloud would do that, natural cloud. But we also have a perfect hole once again, and it looks like something's coming out of it. So I think, again, that's one of our camouflage plasma generators. And then what's interesting here is that C. If you follow my cursor, this thing has a perfect curve. It's very ghost-like. And another perfect curve here. You can see the 2 points, and it curves here, and it curves below here. What the heck is that? It looks like a piece of material, like a canvas tent to cover an opening or something. See what you see in here. Again, there's 2 parallel legs, too perfect to be a cloud. And so see what you see in that scene. Okay, this one gets really fascinating. It's so fascinating that I did include this on my community page. I put some stills showing the original, and then, some extreme enhancements, because let me just say, I first noticed this mainly for this huge void track going, like, not perfectly vertical, but vertical enough. Like, what the heck is that? No clouds do this. So already it implies that something flew down here and created this divide or something. But then the more I started looking at this, oh my gosh, look at this on the right-hand side. Look how perfect. It's a pipe with an opening and stuff like coming out perhaps, and another stick-like thing going in perpendicular. It almost looks very organic, like a tree. At first I thought it looked like a metal pipe, but it's either a really corroded kind of organic pipe, or it is maybe like wood in some other dimension. I'm like, I don't even know what to think about this. Look at the scale of this sucker. These are the treetops. This was not high above at all, and yet it's sitting right in there. So the other thing about this is when you start looking at Cloak and Craft, you'll notice that in the moment you see it, it said it's crispest and finest version of the image. And then as you look over, a few minutes later, it starts disintegrating. So it's almost like it's meant for you to catch that initial glimpse of it, and just to say, hey, we're here, yes, you saw us. And then it, poofs on over, like, okay, you had a long enough look. So as I say with these things, I believe whoever's behind these Cloak and Craft, and again, it could be any number of entities from extra or interdimensional, terrestrial or beyond, far beyond. But as I mentioned with that, it's like they're sloppy cloaking on purpose for people like myself and yourself when you're starting to catch on to these things, to just kind of, confirm, yep, we're here. You're not crazy. This is going on. But not staying too long to freak the people out who aren't ready to see it quite yet. So anyway, I find it fascinating, got no bad vibes. But I would like to know, what the heck is this? It almost also looks like a belt buckle. I mean, I know it's kind of odd to say, but look at this. This, if you follow my cursor, there's a straight line going up like a square. And this looks like the rolled metal piece, and with the little, I don't even know what you call that, the little prong to catch the holes of the belt. So I don't know what's going on here. It looks like something maybe flew out of here to create this open tract, or something flew up and in. I don't know. What the heck do you think we're looking at here? Zooming in, and I'm taking out the color. Sometimes I remove the color just so we could look at things in a different way perhaps, and really focus on some of the elements without getting distracted by the color. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. So again, we see, I don't know what it is. I really don't, but I know I'm fascinated by it. But look, we've got the end of a rigid pipe here, no question about it. And then we've got something that's perpendicular to it heading in, which is an impossibility with clouds, movement and physics of clouds. Anyhow, see what you find in here. We also have these curious little holes, and there's so much more going on here, but I'm going to have to move along for time's sake. Okay, now, again, I'm just looking over in the north at 2:30 in the afternoon, and this is a lone cloud in quotes. I say cloud in quotes when I say, if you look in the lower right, strange cloud in quotes activity. That means that, okay, there's stuff that's supposed to be a cloud. It's an imposter. It's trying to look like a cloud, but it ain't no cloud, so to speak. And in here, I know it because right here below C, I see a triangular imprint, a perfect triangular form, too rigid to be natural cloud. So I see that I'm looking at either one overall craft or multiples that are like traveling together in a group. And so here we go with enhancement, voila, we see this perfect triangular form, kind of looking at it at a weird angle. What do I see at the top of it? A perfect pipe shape. So once again, we're looking at tech. It even has a little shadow. It's either the end of the pipe or something protruding with a shadow falling. And then, we have other weird little elements. Looks like there's an egg-shaped thing cloaking, nestled up in here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ends of pipes with, parallel lines. We have this little thing, looks like it is a vapor trail to a dart-shaped, arrowhead-shaped craft, elongated triangular craft. And then we have other weird, like parallel or concentric lines. So there's enough in here to tell me absolutely we're dealing with cloak and craft. And in fact, if you look at my cursor at C, that looks like one bigger craft that's coming to a point with like 2 prongs in the front and then like 2 legs in the back is what I'm seeing. See what you see. Okay, this is pretty wild. This is looking just after sunset, and I was looking to the northeast and look above this tree on the left-hand side. This thing was all by itself, was massive and very, very low in the sky. And then it has these like vapor trails, like this thing is kind of moving into our atmosphere. And a lot of these things I think do kind of appear interdimensionally, and we're just seeing them kind of frozen in time before they morph out of shape. So because they just arrive out of nowhere. These aren't like this puffball wasn't like it came across the sky like typical cloud patterns used to be anyway. It just kind of appears and then disintegrates and then we're done. So we look to the right and this is what I was seeing. What the heck is this thing? We've got sharp straight lines, again parallel lines. We've got spiky things coming off this thing in all different directions. And then we see like this vapor trail coming in. And then look at 8.1. This looks like a separate craft that's docking on top of this thing. It has a different color signature, has symmetrical structure, and the whole thing is just bizarre. This thing comes to a point. I mean, it looks like something's kind of hiding in here. Anyway, it's really bizarre. So I am going to zoom in on just this 8.1. It's going to be a little grainy, but it almost looks like this has a braided cord that's, attaching, or that this thing's docking and hanging on to this bigger thing as this thing zooms in from wherever it's coming from, whatever dimension. Again, it's a very clearly different color signature of the purple compared to this raspberry color. This is just wild. See what you think it is. Okay, now this one is an example of looking to the north where you just kind of really sense something's going on. So there's so much heavy particulate all throughout the atmosphere. But this was whiter, so it almost looked like a smoke, but you can tell it's more than a smoke, because if you follow my cursor, there's an arc, a pure arc, and another one below. So it already tells me, I think we're dealing with a more massive pointed elliptical craft, and with enhancement, this is why. Nothing else above it looks like this, nothing else below it does, and yet right here, it looks like a self-contained craft. Straight lines, straight curve. Look at these planes are very organized, very rigid. And look at C.1, it's like a pure rhombus. So this little stuff that's fuzzy all around it, again, to me, that's cloaking material, plasma. And even at 8.1, we start to see a disc-like shape on angle, pure curves. And again, this will be easier to see maybe on a bigger screen. See what you see in here. I see like a dual pipe, almost like the end of some of these licorices, candies. See what you see. Okay, well, this one was fun. This is in my YouTube shorts as well, set to the song Never Let Me Down Again by Depeche Mode. And I think I called it something like, Sky Angel, Friend or Foe. Like, this was literally just, well, we'll look at the left first, the left-hand side. Sorry, I didn't update the little tags down here. It's looking south at 6:04 p.m. Looking south, this thing is in the sky, and there was like a companion thing down over here to the left, but other than this, that was it. And this was insanely low in the sky. I started to see structure here, very clear. Look at these crisscrossing elements, and then I started to see a figure. So to me, this looked like the head, the trunk of the body, the waist, and the legs coming down, and the arms coming down. Maybe he's holding a weapon. We look to the right. It looks like some kind of sky angel. Again, I don't know if a good or bad angel or demonic or good, but it didn't feel bad, but didn't feel good either. It did seem to be just like in my face, and I just looked back at it like, what? Bring it. I'm ready for you. I have no time for you, because I guess it did feel a little confrontational, but not threatening, even if it was trying to be. But I'm going to zoom in because this looks like the head, and there even look like two eyes and a face. But what else is this if not some kind of phenomenon where we're dealing with some kind of sky being, or a being that can project an image of a humanoid? Because look at this. Not only do I see, the head, the shoulders, an arm bent up holding like some kind of weapon, maybe like maybe some type of, I don't know what would be on the back, like a quiver, not quite, but something on the back of this thing, where maybe these are kind of wings. But what caught my attention is down here at E.1. This looks again like a head, and it looks like a little person, like a little being, like heading off to the right, where you would see the legs, down here, trailing down here, and an arm like attached, holding on to this bigger thing. And later on, we'll see up here, it even looks like another little being. So this looks like some huge, pardon my French, huge-ass sky being with other little beings around it. So again, I guess my apologies to the being if it was benevolent and friendly and I should have greeted it nicer, but I just looked at it like, okay, what? Bring it if you want a confrontation, I'm ready. And if not, go away. So anyway, let's see what else is going on in here. Oh, when I look at D.1 as well, I see what could be a cloak and craft in the negative. Again, it looks like a sky imprint with a perfect little bridging element, almost like a dumbbell if you look at it. See what you see, though. Okay, now on the left-hand side, I've just enhanced it in different ways to catch what's going on in this upper part. And look at like these red things. Those could be wings trailing off behind. And again, this could be some type of fiery weapon. I don't know. That's kind of the impression I get. And, over here we kind of see a wing. So I kind of get that it was either a neutral being or a non-friendly, but one that couldn't do anything because it had my awareness that it better not even try. When we look to the right, this is when I'm zooming in on the face, so it would be over here somewhere. So if you follow my cursor and I outline it, I sketch overlay it in the next slide. This looks like the top of the head, two like hollowed out eyes. You can see the shadows, and the mouth here. So the overall head shape is an elongated, like regular humanoid face. This is a perfect curve. To me, it reminded me of like a halo or a cap kind of pushed back up on the back side of the head. And then again, we would have the shoulder going down to the arm. This is the abdomen and the chest, the front of the chest, and the leg coming down here and the leg coming down here. So if you can pay attention just to the right-hand side of the photo, I'm going to advance to the next slide, which is not going to have anything on the left. It's a little hard to track, but you're going to see the sketch overlays to catch the face and the being that I'm seeing, and I'll toggle back and forth so you can see it. So here we go. Pardon the face, it's just so dummied down. The face is actually very intriguing when we go back and look at what it's supposed to look like. But anyway, this is what I'm just saying. So I'm seeing the shoulder. It's not perfect. This is really rudimentary and a crude sketch, but you get the idea that there's like plasma floating in front to camouflage stuff, but this would be the being's arm would, come down here to be somewhat symmetrical over here. But I mean, clearly these are like leg-like things down at the bottom, and this is it's a body. I mean, I can't see it any other way, and I really don't think it's pareidolia. So we'll go back, keep looking at the right. I know the left is distracting, but again, here's our face with the little cap and the body and then the legs. So there it is. I'll keep going back and forth to see if you see it. So I hope that helps you see what I'm seeing. And I know other people, if you look at the right-hand side going back, really kind viewer, actually I can say every show I probably give Sugar Seas a shout out, but go check out YouTube channel called Sugar Seas and see the amazing kind of frequency detection work she's doing, and with all kinds of things, mystical things, all kinds of phenomena. Check it out. But anyway, she commented on the shorts for this image that instead of seeing what I'm seeing, like the head here and the torso and the legs and all that, she was actually seeing, I believe this is what she was saying, is if you look at this part, it almost looked like that's an ear and like an owl, you know, looking down to the right, and this would be the wing up to the left, and it's scooping in and catching prey, I think, over here. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I'm sure you'll probably even see yet something else in there. And like I say always, you know, feel free to leave what you're seeing in the comment section below if you want to share your thoughts or impressions on any of these images. All right, so let's keep going now. So then on the left, this is when it started to fade away. So when I first saw this angel thing, it was really bright and vibrant, glowing with the red-orange. Oh, and what's interesting about that, I'm going to go back. Here we go. So on the left-hand side, it wasn't this pale. You know, my camera, the original photo, will kind of muddy things out. And to the naked eye, it was much more vibrant, like a salmon pink glowing color. I just want to point that out. So it was very obvious. And again, this was massive, and it was the only thing in the sky. So it really did catch the attention. And again, just looking to the right, I mean, I just see this being, and we have like a little baby being next to it, or a little kid. I don't know. It's just crazy how much these look like two humanoids to, you know, just ignore it. I really do think there is something to this whole sky people thing. And actually, all of this is revving me up to go take a look on my own to research that whole side of things further, because I didn't really ever think about it until some of these things here and there over the 4 years have kind of, some have stood out to me more than others, like this one, that there's got to be something to it. So, and if any of you out there know a thing or two about it or where to look, by all means, let us know in the comment section below. All right, so we're going to keep going. Oh, this is just another one of these fragments with extreme enhancement that you see yet other things kind of pop out. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I see a perfect ring or circle right here and maybe one over here. All right, now this is the original to the cover slide. And what's grabbing my attention is there's a really bright object here with a stick to it going to a pointed ellipse. And this is at nighttime, so there would be no reason that we would have, you know, this is around 7:30 at night. So there's no reason to have these parallel lines plus one's movement radiating all over the place, all weird and in opposing directions from each other. That just wouldn't happen, again, in a natural system of clouds. Whether it's wind direction, would just be going in one direction over flat Florida here. It's not like Europe where you have like wind directions coming from all over the place. It's pretty predictable. And lately, since about 2012, the East Gulf current, I think they call it, stopped. So, and I noticed it because we used to always have a little breeze, whether it was, you know, strong or light breeze. We always had a consistent breeze over Miami, especially I live pretty close to the coast, to the a bay anyway, and there was always a local breeze. But somewhere after that, it just stopped, and more often than not, it's just like dead air and no movement. So that's a huge change. So whether there's a consistent breeze blowing in one direction or no breeze at all, you cannot, again, by wind and air physics, wind physics, get this kind of movement and patterning. So that's saying that this is artificial and something artificial is creating it. Now when we look at the color signatures on top of everything, that adds even more to the puzzle. So some kind of weird object is sitting right here at D.1. It's a lighter color. Then we got some kind of red raspberry thing coming on top of it with a sharp line. And then we have this spear-like thing, lance type thing, you know, shooting out of it. Again, the whiter color is the object, and the purple, I think, is like kind of the plasma cloaking over it, wafting over it. I don't like to say wafting. I don't know why I say wafting over it. And then we have this thing, and again, just kind of weird elements, spiky elements going this way, while over here, things are moving in very different directions. It just doesn't happen in natural cloud systems. Then we have this thing that almost looks like a tulip with a vapor trail like moving up this way. And just what the heck is going on here? See what you see. I'm going to zoom in on the left side first. And just, you know, again, look how straight. It's a rod or like a pointer or something. But look at the color signatures. You know, this almost looks like a ball. You know, I see a perfect curve right here. If you look at my, I'll do this bigger right over in here. See if you see that too. And I'm sure you're going to find other things that I'm missing right at the moment. Okay, now this is weird. Look to the left-hand side. Again, on the days where we've got this dense, milky film-like, you know, impression, this particulate, you know, creating like an artificial veil. you know, especially in those days, if you see even little streaks like I'm seeing here on the left-hand side and up here, it's a great time to take a picture and then to look later to see what you get. So look at the left and now look at the right. Is that not mind-boggling what shows up? So this thing here turns out to be some kind of white object behind all this heavy particulate. And over here, look at this, a straight line, come on, and another straight line passing in a different direction right below it. It's almost like the game of pickup sticks, if you're familiar, these little spindles that you throw down on the table, and then each person has to lift the one on the top without moving the other one. It's totally what I'm seeing here. What the heck? What are these tech objects? I want to know. I want to see them without the particulate. That's my vote. I'm zooming in on that. Look at this. This comes straight across, and this comes right on top of it. Unbelievable. And then look at the color signature as well. What is this huge fuzz out? Are we dealing with, this is all covering up some kind of sphere? Or is there a bigger craft beyond that is sphere-shaped? And that's the power generation that we're picking up on the brighter signature. And then in front of it are these things, or these are elements of it attached to it that are just poking out. See what you think. All right, so there we go. And now this is interesting, driving around Miami once again, looking to the northwest. The original's on the left, the enhanced is on the right. I really blew out the enhancement extreme because we see that this is moving over horizontal. Well, this whole thing is so bizarre. We never used to have clouds that seemingly erupt right off of the ground plane and, you know, form and move upward like this, very localized. And on top of it, right at B.1, a very curious shape starts to form. So it's, you know, looks like a star, just like a four-pointed star, or some kind of weird like cross shape. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to zoom in on it. And what's interesting is we have these perfect little spheres. They're like little bullets coming off of a metal plane. I can't tell you what this is, but look how, the more you look, the more weird it gets. We've got these two perfectly white dots, symmetrical, okay? And then we have what looks like a cord or a stick that's, again, tethering this thing to a bigger craft, because we've got a straight line moving down here, if you see that. We also have holes, perfect holes over here. So this looks like it's densely camouflaged, you know, that there's a lot of objects in here, technological objects happening. There's a lot of holes, perfect holes. So again, I think these are our little exit ports for camouflage materials to come out. See what you think is going on in that scene. All right, here we go, looking 2:40 in the afternoon northeast. What caught my attention on the left-hand side is the original, is how insanely low these quote-unquote puffs of supposed clouds are sitting here, really low. And here they have kind of a slight amorphic shape, even though they're, you know, more or less bulbous. But look down here at D, it's a perfect triangular form again, going to a peak. So you can't have it all in one little scene and call it organic cloud. You know, there's no world of the physics of air moving around where this would form a perfect point. Well, these are not. And anyway, we'll keep going. But on the right-hand side, it kind of makes this glaringly obvious that D.1 is got a point to it. Now we see little things shooting off, these supposed cloud balls. Look at this. This has a vapor trail behind it. Looks like it's, you know, exiting out of this kind of camouflage area. So I'm going to say, yes, we've got cloak and craft going on in here all over the place. See what you see. Here's just another view on the left-hand side. Look, we see all these little fragments shooting off. Oh, here it's really good. If you follow my cursor on the left, see these 2 points? They're 2 parallel sticks jutting up out of here. So again, to me, I like to coin the phrase sloppy cloaking, because I think this is a cloak and craft or multiples. And every once in a while, they don't mind if we, you know, kind of see the parts and pieces. Then to the right, you know, we kind of see a stick coming out of this thing, and there's a perfect hole right in there too, where my cursor is. And then what's this vapor, this black vapor trails coming down to this? So I'm going to say down here is a craft, and it flew out of here, has some relationship to this cloak and craft above it. I don't know what's going on in here, but it's a lot of weird stuff. If you look at the profile of this thing, look at this perfect curve, perfect rigid curve, something's going on in here as well. We're going to zoom in down at this bottom part here and see these little sub letters, these lowercase letters. I'm just trying to get at what's going on with these little parts and pieces falling off of this thing. And again, we have like a triangular form down here. This is a craft, no question. And then we also have, triangle here, but another echoing triangle down here. How the heck would you have natural clouds that have one triangle on top of the other? The answer is you can't. So it's cloak and craft, or objects. All right, this is another part of town toward the evening, looking east at night with the, I believe it was a full moon or near full moon. And what caught my attention was I was trying to catch the moon, and I have a shorts that documents this. And actually, I think it's somebody singing in the Tibetan language, the song behind it. But anyway, look up here. I see like ripples in a pool, if this were water. Perfect curve echoing with another perfect curve in this quote-unquote cloud stuff. So we look to the right, and you can see A point, 1, B point. That's where I'm seeing the curve. Well, look up here. That's technology. I see the end of the pipe with a dark black end to it, and, very rigid pipe openings right in here. So this overall thing is something. I can't tell you what, but this opening is symmetrical more or less with these, holes. And then we get some kind of object here, which might be a more bigger triangular, truncated triangular form. But look, we see parts and pieces all over the place. If you look at my cursor there, other weird little shapes happening all over the place. I mean, this looks like a stick is coming out of the end of a pipe or nearby it. We have a darker signature over here. So I'm going to say, my gosh, this entire scene is loaded with craft. See what else you can pick out on the smaller screen format. Okay, tell me, anyone can tell me what's going on here? Can anybody tell me, please? The left-hand side, again, just hints of things going on, which a lot of people might just, walk by and not really pay attention to. But when I see this, I'm like, what the heck? This is not natural cloud positioning, patterning, texture, whatever. So we look to the right, and you can see why I flagged it. What the heck is going on here? Look at, these are bright white and dense. What the heck is this blur out happening over here? These two parallel sticks are moving in a totally opposite direction than this and this. And you can see very rigid, lines, sharp lines. So I think what we're catching here is a craft that's just starting to come out of its cloaking phase, or just coming into our dimension, and we're just kind of picking up pieces of it. So I think even the pattern in here looks pretty funky. I think this is an overall craft, and we're kind of seeing the perimeter edges of it kind of coming into our field of view. All right, now this is looking northeast, and again, what caught my attention is over here. These just things didn't make sense. This is not a natural cloud shape, nor these positionings of C and D with a gap in the middle. So we look to the right for the enhancement, and it just gets stranger by the minute. I did include this in one of my YouTube shorts as well. But we see, straight line. I see little holes and things going on all over the place. So this also too looks like there's some shape, if you follow my cursor, like a triangular shape bridging between these two things. So there's, again, more than meets the eye going on, and even more than meets the camera's eye. So I think the camera's picking up these things but can't quite pick up what's happening in between. I do believe this is one overall craft that's just kind of moving along. But see what you think. All right, this was just strange because of the consistency of this thing on the left-hand side, and this angle and this perfect curve. I mean, it's not a straight, sharp-edged curve, but you can tell there's a perfect curve there with cloaking material going on over it. So we look to the right, and I couldn't pull out too much with much more clarity, but enough to see that these are little perfect parts and pieces. Again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, a perfect pentagonal shape, with like a little vapor trail behind it. We have a sky imprint cutting out here a notch towards C.1. We have other little things ejecting off in different ways, in a totally different angle than this thing. So again, when we got opposing angles to each other, we're dealing with technology that's cloaking up in the sky. Here, this looks like almost like a football shape of a darker, impression with two little points that are symmetrical. So again, this is riddled with technology up in there, cloaking. All right, this one was kind of in your face, obvious, looking west at 2 o'clock in Miami, and it just was this kind of form, like a top, like a children's top that you play with. But then there's specific shapes happening at the top, with a perfect line at A. So we look to the right, and my goodness, it just really pops out with the enhancement that we have this thing with kind of like a hole in it. These things kind of like hiding at the top of this thing. Anyway, we're going to zoom in on that top part. Look at that. There's one element there, and then there's something that looks like it's kind of buried or hiding in the top here. I can't get at too much. It is a little fuzzy, but there's enough there to show you that this entire thing looks like a cloak and craft, because follow my cursor to the right. Look at this pure curve. You know, we're talking, you know, again, intelligent design going on in here. We're going to zoom in one more time on the top piece. You know, it looks like discs kind of angled and buried into whatever this cloaking system is doing here. We have a straight line. We have the ends here, once again, the ends of pipes. Seeing a ton of these lately. Two ends, you know, of pipes connected, side by side, parallel. See what you see. One more view. It's going to be a little bit mappy and fuzzy on a bigger screen, but I really see a very rigid, you know, pipe or rod, you know, banking and coming out of whatever this cloaking, you know, craft is. So, and we've got the sharp edge with the cloaking material cascading over it. See what you see. All right, this is coming out of a grocery store in Miami, looking west, and right away, this thing is so low, so incredibly low in the sky, and too low to be like in decades past, and it's a pointed ellipse, and it looks like we have a triangular cloaking triangle attached to the back of it, or being towed perhaps. And this is very reminiscent of when I first was told to look up one of my first shows. I have something very similar coming out of this same building, coincidentally, in a very similar form when I first started noticing, oh my gosh, we're dealing with cloak and craft with these things. So I invite you to go back and take a look there. Now here, the sunset going down is supposedly a little bit golden this time instead of the pure white, but yet somehow we get bright red signature. It's kind of an impossibility, if not for some other phenomenon going on, or perhaps this thing is self-illuminating. This does look like a point here, a point of not light per se, but like objects, like a structure poking out, 1, 2, 3, but in an organized way and fairly rhythmic, you know, spacing. And so to me, this looks like the bottom part, you know, of a craft. And look what's going on in here. We have a perfect circle. We're looking at the end of a circle with a rim on it, and another elongated one here. These are freaking machine parts that are recognizable on this thing. And again, it's strange how this all is working. I don't know exactly, but there's a lot of interdimensionality involved, and gosh, also just on the range of what we can see versus what the camera sees. And again, we look down, trailing behind it is a cloaking triangular form. And down here, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, because here it is with enhancement. I should have spent more time on this slide so you can see things a little better. But, you know, down here I mentioned the opening of the show that I forgot to label this one. That's a perfect kind of curve, and it's got very distinct elements to it to say it's cloak and craft. This also looks like part of a cloak and craft because it's got like a fishtail, you know, perfect symmetry to it, and it moves along this way. And actually, I've seen this form somewhere else too. I think I covered it in a previous show. Anyway, look at the color signatures. You know, there's so many within one little plane of the altitude that shows me something is self-generating these colors, you know, whether it's heat or something else causing the different coloration with whatever power source is going on, or it just has certain lighting that does that within it. I don't know. But the point is, there's a hole. There's, you know, here there's a couple holes too, as I pointed out. This looks like an oval, you know, and a pipe that's like an oval form. There's just a lot of high strangeness, but it has structure and rigidity to it that all again point to advanced tech. See what you see in this scene though. Okay, this one looking northwest at 5 p.m. just looks strange, and it's going off at such a big angle. It's really kind of one of those in your face, you know, how could you possibly miss me type things. I'm right here, and going at such a weird angle to be a natural cloud, you know, without even doing any much guesswork and without any enhancements. I can tell you that's a big freaking cloak and craft, or multiples. Like there could be a triangular form at the end of this thing. So with enhancement, yes, this looks like a triangular form at the backside. It could be separate from other craft happening in here, or this is just one giant craft. I tend to think it is just one big craft. And look at the way the plasma or the cloaking material is kind of cradling it, you know, snug on it. And these look like two little things. Look at the vapor trails are parallel, and it looks like they're kind of emerging out of this thing together at the same time. And then up at C.1, we have something a little more triangular shaped with like a pipe end here. And sometimes I think some of these things like C.1 are companion craft that kind of, you know, float along with the bigger ones. And maybe their function is just kind of like something that buffers it or acts like a tugboat wherever it's going. I don't know. And look how curious A.1. I didn't really spend time on that, but actually that's very crisp. And if I had noticed that before, when I was putting the show together, I would have zoomed in just on that element. But maybe you can do that and see. I mean, it's a very rigid, these are very rigid shapes here. So see what you see. All right, this one was weird. I put it in another YouTube Shorts. But look at this. It's like a perfect little capsule. And then this is a pure curve on top of a pure curve. You know, that just doesn't happen, again, with natural laws of physics for clouds, let alone that above it is something totally different. And it's right there in the same altitude. So how do you get all this different forming of all these different cloud types? And especially with C, you know, kind of coming in opposition to this. And then you already start to see little holes and, you know, technology. So hang on one second. Okay, I'm back, and so here's what we get with enhancement. And again, I invite you to look at the color signatures, look at the other traits and characteristics. This is really smooth, and this is hot and humid. Miami, there's no cold air to create that smoothness. And then look at this thing. It's like, look at all these waves. To me, that's electromagnetic wave energy coming from craft itself. Yes, there's things like HAARP, but those are on a massive scale. This is local in the atmosphere, so I'm saying these waves are absolutely attributed to a cloaking craft moving through the environment here. And look at this thing. It's a different color signature. It's a little more golden. It looks like another little craft is exiting out of it. Maybe it's even like a jump ring or some kind of space ring. They used it in that concept in Star Wars in the prequel and the Phantom Menace. I think one of those, or the second movie. Where you kind of come in, like use that as a stargate or a jump ring to come in from one sector of the galaxy to another, whatever. Or this is a craft, you know, kind of phasing in and out of state, and we're seeing another one shoot up out of it. I don't know, but it's cloaking craft or object, and this is something strange happening down here too, which has to be either, you know, a couple of different cloaking craft or it's connected. I can't tell, but I can see holes over here towards C.1. Anyway, we're going to zoom in on D.1 as well. There is so much going on here. There's another triangular sky imprint back there with something kind of projecting out in front of it. I think that's also cloaking craft. But let's move along. Here's this piece. What the heck is this? And then I noticed 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think those are birds based on the scale of them, the size of them, and they look too equally spaced apart. I think these are also cloaking craft, or again, cloaking probes or sensors or, you know, data collecting equipment. I don't know, but I only noticed them after, you know, I was putting the show together as well. Now, here's that perfect curve, another perfect curved. Look how the awkward way that they're right next to each other. And then this, you know, perfect thing. So we're going to look at that with enhancement, and we start to see there's like a perfect arc behind it, other weird little elements off of that thing. I mean, what the heck? You know, it's not a natural cloud, so what is it? We're zooming in again. And again, these things are too perfect. If they were birds all flying like that, like at equal spacing, we would get hints of them, you know, looking a little more radical, or each one doing its own thing, more than likely. I'm not ruling it out that it's birds, but I find it highly unlikely just due to the, like, precise spacing of them as they're flying across. But anyway, we look back up here at D.4. Can't get too much out of what's going on down here, but D.4, I see an impression like the end of an opening here, once again, a hole here, and then, you know, just something totally different happening right on this thing. And this looks like, to me, like some type of cloaking object that's, you know, rising up out of, you know, a bigger object. But see what you see. I'm zooming in one more time. Again, kind of circular elements. These are pure circles. I don't know really what's going on past this, but a natural cloud would not form like this and have a, you know, a spacing, and then like a pure, look at that curve, even like the shadow play here. It shows how perfect, like chiseled that curve is compared to everything else around it. What's going on? What tech is going on up there? We just can't see it with all the veiled, cloaking elements. All right, this one's fun. So this down here, the cluster showing A, B, C, D, E, this is what's on one of the alternate cover slides. And this begins to look very much like an incredibly sophisticated craft sitting here. Look how different of an animal that is. That's what caught my attention from all the other type of stuff happening around it. It just didn't make sense. And we get more of this muted stuff, more of these waves. You can see them in here. So right away, this is so different from all of this. And yet it's all in the same vicinity in the atmosphere. And this even starts to kind of like zigzag and do weird stuff. So anyway, there's too many different things happening to be natural cloud. And with extreme enhancement, bam, look at right in here. Yep, you got craft. And back here too. And look at, we even see the vapor trail coming up to this one. And then we've got what's supposed to be the sun, glaring, god-awful, eye-violating white glare. Can't even look at it. And then we have an object here. We've got weird stuff. I think we've got cloaking craft all in this weird stuff that's there to hide the glaring white ball there. Now, is all of this hiding it so we don't see the effects of this artificial sun in a negative way? Or are all of these things kind of trying to hide it to help us? Because it is glaring and it's too intense and hot. So I'm on the fence. I'm not sure, who's doing what these days up in the sky as they cloak. I would like to think that they're trying to do it, for us to protect us from excessive heat that shouldn't be there because somebody else with bad intent put up the sun tech. We got weird things happening along here too, these darker patches. See what you think's going on. But look at this at E. It's a really weird shape. None of this makes sense in a natural organic cloud world. Now we're going to zoom in on this weird collection. And again, you can just see how different that is from this happening below, right? And I'm just going to look at, here we even have a line. It's like a perfect disc, like a coaster that you'd put a drink on. And then we've got these lines up here, a blur out. Man, this was just crazy. And I think down here, this could be part of one bigger craft where this point is. Maybe that's one bigger one. But what the heck? And look at perfect coaster-like thing and another one down here. So I'm going to zoom in on that area. Look at this. It's fascinating. I mean, it's just really fascinating. And then look at all these waves around this thing. You see this? This is why I say some of these things have got to be craft, and they're generating the ripples in the sky, the effect. Look at this. It's amazing. We're zooming in one more time. Look at that line, which would be like this perfect like coaster or like the bottom of a teacup, Crazy. Look at this, all this detail. And pay attention to the color signatures as well. All right, we got more of this blurred effect because when you look to on the right-hand side at the enhanced version, this to the right is like the tail end of the thing we were just looking at. So we've got this dark, void at B.1. We've got a sphere-like thing forming here, and look at all this. Like, to me, again, this is generating, power, and so everything's like rippling around it is what I'm surmising. And look at this. To the naked eye, it was even over here all fuzzy and stuff. That's why I took a picture. So something is oscillating and generating these ripples and these fuzz outs. So see what you see in here. It's pretty fascinating. And at the same time, once again, what's this thing doing down here? It's like doing its own thing, arcing in a weird way, while this is coming in opposition to it once again. So there's something intelligent happening back here. Pretty fascinating. See what you see. Oh, and again, there's like a perfect ring right here. It looks like the end of a pipe again. The more you look, you're going to find those. Okay, now we're looking east at 6:40 p.m. And there was just a lot of strange things. Mainly this was like one big reddish pink ball, okay? Even to the naked eye, as you can see, with like more of a, not Carillion, but like not even cyan. I can't think of the name. Not cobalt. There's some blue with the C. I can't hit it right now. But anyway, this kind of otherworldly blue is happening up here. Well, we have bright, bright white. Now keep in mind, we are looking east, okay? East after sunset. So why the heck do we have this bright burst, going on beyond here? And it looks like we have a triangular form here. And what's this weird squiggle pipe thing? So with enhancement, I know it's grainy, but I really blew it out to get at the color signatures, again, to demonstrate. We're looking east. There should be no big power burst of white happening in the eastern sky after sunset, localized right over here, and yet we have it. That in conjunction with this raspberry color, it looks like a big ball, a big sphere being cloaked. Other really weird stuff is going on in here, especially if you look at D, E, and F. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, these long, like rod-like things. And then what the heck is C? It's kind of like an onion shape, but like a perfect ball. What the heck are these objects? I know they're advanced technology. We have like sky imprints going on back here of triangular forms. My God, we deserve as human beings to see what's going on in our sky now. And there's no fear involved. Let's just see it. Okay, what is this? Please tell me, somebody. I don't have the more expanded view, but the glare out sun was here. On a zoom in, I saw this weird little thing happening, in between the sun glare and the clouds, quote unquote clouds. They're not normal, natural clouds in any way, shape, or form. But what is this thing? There's a hole in it, and it looks like a pipe coming out through that hole. I haven't seen anything like this. Look see, there's like that little pipe sticking out, or something sticking out. Maybe this is a craft and it's a being looking out through its window. I don't know. But we have a triangular form on top of a triangular form. This thing absolutely has structure to it. See what you see is going on. Here's another zoomed in view. This does now look like a pipe with 2 holes at the ends. What the heck? I mean, what the heck are we looking at? All right, this is in one of my shorts as well, that in the morning looking west, it was just this thing, that's it, in the whole western sky, from north to south, just this little chunk of a supposed cloud, and it's in a perfect triangular shape. Here we are, and here we are. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it looks like other little triangular shapes are all around it, so yeah, I'm saying it's cloak and craft. Okay, now this one, we start to see 2 repeating perfect shapes, and it looks like, a triangle, but then I notice, wait, it's got weird little flap things on the side, and here it's doing the same thing, and something's going on at ease. So I look to the right with enhancement. We have a triangle, perfect triangle, shooting off of this thing, and then we have some other kind of symmetrical shape happening up here. But look at this. We have like a little stick. It's actually a triangle with another like triangle overlaid on it, it looks like. And the same thing's happening down here with this little piece sticking out, like triangles overlapping each other. And then E.1 looks like the end of a pipe once again. So again, I think that's generating this cloaking material. Okay, this overall picture is a little blurry and fuzzy. It's just how the camera couldn't adjust, I think, with the intense glare. But I took it anyway. I just held the camera up. It was so glaring, I couldn't even look at it without hurting my eyes. So I just held it up and shot, the picture. So anyway, we're going to look at elements A, B, and C. What struck me right away again was how weird the shape, misshapen, our quote-unquote sun is, because, once again, this is artificial tech pretending to be the sun. And with extreme enhancement, you can just see the weird oblong shape of this thing. Also this, where my cursor is, hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Also over toward 8.1 down here, this thing is like a perfect ball or sphere. And then down here to C.1, we have another pointed like triangular shape. And there's also like a B.1 over here, just weird little things. It just tells me there's kind of like weird tech things offshooting from this other tech thing, which is really no way can be confused with our original organic sun. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this one. It was just really acting really strange. And then over here, this is looking northwest in the morning, almost 11 a.m. And what caught my attention here was, oh, wow, finally we have another quote-unquote blue sky, but there's a faint puff of something here, and a camouflage or chemtrail, chemical filled trail over here at B, right? So of course I'm going to highlight and look at this. So here we go. Look at that difference between the original, knowing something's there, and bam, seeing it. Now, to my surprise, I knew this is what B.1 would look like, this chemical filled or camouflage trail. But look at 8.1. Oh, and there's something ghosted back in here, I think is a cloaking craft. And I think that's why somebody, something, not somebody, some entity sprayed this thing to probably hide the fact that there were cloaking craft projected to come in right there. But look at 8.1. We start to see a line and another line. Now, it's not a right angle, but it's absolutely an acute triangle of some kind. So we're going to look at that. Hang on one second, once more. Okay, I'm back. So here's that hint of something that I saw with an angle. Well, bam, there it is. Okay, so we've got a line and a line, but also we have it like superimposed on an egg-like shape. This is really strange, this whole thing. I did include this on a shorts, YouTube shorts, and I sketched overlaid the line so you could see it very clearly that it's an acute acute angle. All right, so here with different, I'm just going through different types of enhancements to try to see what's going on here exactly. Not really helping me much there, but I think I start to see, excuse me, sorry if you have your earphones on, and I cleared my throat. I'm trying to avoid that. But here I do see some little holes. I don't know, it's a curious little thing hanging down off this. But I don't really have any answers on this one. I just have more questions than answers. What do you see here? It's weird. Why is it even there? And then with the extreme enhancement, look at this kind of fans out. I don't know what we're looking at other than, this looks like two different triangles like overlapping, to me. That's what it looks like. But see what you see. Now, this is a few minutes later after the thing started morphing and changing, and then that's what we get. So look at these like spike-like things, they almost look like bone, excuse me, bone-like things. Hold on. I'm back. When I mean bone-like things, I mean like bones of a fish almost. Anyway, it's just really strange. This looks like a tail of something like from a stingray. It has a very organic feel to it, obviously. But then what's going on up here? It looks like a ring. Like we're looking at it at an angle, a rim of something, and then maybe something, kind of crawling or flying out of it. I don't know. See what you see there. All right, well, this is the photo of the day and the close of the show, and it's again of a little cluster of the starfruit or carambolas growing on a tree in my yard, and they're very healthy and taste delicious, by the way. So anyway, I want to say thanks for hanging around here a while. I know it's a lengthy show, but I've been on a mission to catch up, but like I said, with all of my backlogged photos and get this all in somewhere and document it. And so now going forward, my shows should be shorter. Let's hope. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it all. And as always, I wish you tremendous peace and love. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.